Hello again, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us for this Thursday's edition of Alaska Weather. I'm Dave Percy, a meteorologist with the National Weather Service, and I'll be hosting today's show. Up first, on the hazardous weather graphic, if I can get to it, advance, there we go. Got a wind advisory out here for the Alaska range. That starts at about noon Friday and continues through, let's see, 9 p.m. Noon Friday and continues out through 10 p.m. Saturday for the entire Alaska range here. Look for winds 25 to roughly 40 miles an hour with gusts to 60 miles an hour all through this area. Again, that's from noon tomorrow until 10 p.m. Saturday. And then the flood advisory near Antioch remains out till further notice, actually. There, ice jam right at Antioch, and that's going to remain out, but there's a flood watch out here on the Kuskokwim River near Upper and Lower Kalskag, and that's due to an ice jam as well. And the potential for flooding is occurring there with due to an ice jam near Birch Crossing. So the potential for flooding is there. That's what a flood watch is, as opposed to a flood warning where flooding is occurring or imminent. Right now it's still in the watch category, and that's for the Kuskokwim River near Upper and Lower Kalskag, and that's out through tomorrow. Moving on to the satellite imagery, or I'm sorry, the breakup map, again showing breakup going on along the Kuskokwim River there, obviously with a couple ice jams going on in those areas there where the watch and a warning flood advisory is. Not much happening on the Yukon at all. Tanana continuing to slowly break up here with an expanding area of mostly open waters. You can see along the river there too, some open, but mostly ice here on down toward Tanana. And of course the Yukon River, as I mentioned, and the northern river especially, still iced up. Now moving on to satellite imagery, you can see one system, kind of a trough, lifting northward here right onto south central Alaska, bringing rain and snow here across the southwest interior. Not particularly heavy amounts. Rain along the Kenai Peninsula into Prince William Sound, and then tapering off as you head east there into the Panhandle. More rain with this mass of moisture coming northward with heaviest amounts over the southern southeast coast today. Not all that much up to the north, just cloudy skies, so not so just cloudy here in northern Panhandle back to about Yakutat. Then from about Cordova westward, you pick up the rain, and that becomes mostly in the upslope areas of mountainous terrain inland here, and break out, actually get some breaks in the overcast there, some sunshine, upper Yukon Valley, and trailing back, looks like across the Kobuk Valley. Not a whole lot there, but a few breaks showing up with clouds slowly drifting westward there over the North Slope, Western Brooks Range area on out to the west. More clouds through here, bringing areas of light snow and fog to the central and eastern Beaufort Sea coast today. And then right on the edge of the chart here, you can see the next developing low, kind of moving initially to the southeast here with the colder air feeding in behind, beginning to take a turn to the west with the low center right through there, warm front moisture right along here. And this will continue westward and then take a turn to the north later tonight and throughout the day tomorrow and come right up across Bristol Bay. On the chart today, there's that roughly the position of that low center right in this area, actually the upper system back to the northwest there. Another surface low bringing rain to the Pribilof Islands today, light rain. Scattered showers occurring there, Alaska Peninsula, all of the Alaska Peninsula to about the eastern Aleutian areas. And Adak and Atka, some scattered rain and snow showers. Cold enough for snow showers right down to sea level out there towards Shemya. This trough to the north here bringing rain and snow showers or areas of there along the trough axis, mostly hanging up along and south of the Alaska Range here with nothing getting in the Tanana Valley, just some mid and high level clouds breaking out the sunshine north of the White Mountains there, as I mentioned, into the upper Tanana Valley, and then some snow showers right along this area here, kind of the kind of a boundary right through here with the colder air back to the northwest and to the north, and milder conditions here over the north central interior. Rain here across the southeast coast. Again, pretty light up here over the northern areas. Not much really falling this afternoon there, with Cordova just picking up 7/100 of an inch since midnight last night, while Valdez had roughly about 2/10 of an inch. Same thing at Seward, 2/10 of an inch of rain falling there. Portage, one of the heavier amounts as usual, with about 1/2 inch of precipitation. Had showers, a few hundredths of an inch at Kodiak. Those showers ending this afternoon. See some clearing showing up around there. And then also fairly light amounts here across the Alaska Peninsula and the eastern Aleutian areas, with southern southeast coast, a little bit more in the way of rain there, with Metlakatla and let's see, Klawock picking up about 1 to maybe 1/1200ths of an inch. Otherwise, much of the precipitation out here over the southwest interior, just a few hundredths of an inch. In a lot of areas, really didn't even see that much. Moving on to tonight, that storm definitely intensifies here, dropping into 975 millibars as it tracks up toward Sandpoint or Chignik there. So gale force winds for sure hitting Kodiak Island, with rain heavy at times on the east side of the island, with this warm front spreading moisture, increasing winds right into the Barren Islands, southern Cook Inlet, with possible heavy amounts of rain, or moderate to maybe possibly heavy, for the Kenai Peninsula south side there, Kachemak Bay, right into the Aleutian Range, and then becoming mixed here at the higher elevations. Lots of rain and snow showers and gusty northerly winds. Pretty good northerlies here coming into the Pribilof Islands, with rain and snow showers all the way down to the central Aleutians, staying dry over the central interior. Pick up some isolated rain and snow showers, leftover moisture there over the Koyukuk Valley to the eastern Brooks Range. No change for the North Slope and Arctic coast. Look for IFR with clouds, fog, and flurries, and some of that will slip on down to the Bering Strait, but possible clearing. Might be a little optimistic here for St. Lawrence Island, with those northerly winds definitely on the increase. Showers over the southern southeast coast, possibly ending over the extreme southern areas in Dixon Entrance late tonight, with the bulk of the moisture heading from south to north there off to your west. And then for tomorrow, still some scattered shower threats here over the southern panhandle, increasing as you go north there, but the bulk of the moisture will be back Yakutat westward, right up into the North Gulf Coast, Prince William Sound, as this frontal system moves northward and then gradually to the east, with gusty winds across south central Alaska as this low center pulls north. Pretty gusty winds, could see maybe gusts 50 plus miles per hour, even 60 miles an hour over the mountainous terrain of south central Alaska through the passes. Showers and windy Kodiak Island. A trough keeps it very unsettled for the Alaska Peninsula into the Fox Islands, and then those showers scatter out, become much more isolated as you head west in the Aleutians there, with diminishing winds, and some rain and snow, or some snow showers here with colder temperatures in that northerly flow. Northeast flow across the Chukchi Sea turns northerly through the Bering Strait southward to St. Lawrence Island. Basically dry, maybe some isolated rain and snow showers over the mountainous terrain here of the northern half of the state, and then the Arctic coast. Conditions will improve ceiling and visibility wise from the IFR of tomorrow morning for Friday afternoon there for the North Slope, as well as the Arctic coast. You're going to hang on to some fog and flurries though, with gusty easterly winds getting pretty gusty here along the northwest coast. And then for Saturday, one low develops and pushes up there to the Mackenzie River Delta. This frontal boundary right through here north of that, gusty northeast winds, east-northeasterlies, maybe 15-25, higher gusts there eastern Beaufort Sea coast, with snow possibly blowing and drifting there. Snow north and west of this boundary down to the Seward Peninsula, and colder air snow showers into the northern Bering Sea, maybe reaching the Pribilofs. Otherwise, mixed rain and snow showers eventually showing up along the Aleutians and Alaska Peninsula. This trough weakening from what it was the previous frame there will keep it unsettled over Kodiak Island. Mostly cloudy, scattered showers along the North Gulf Coast, with not much in the way of wind going on. Still a little breezy in areas of south central Alaska, especially in the afternoon. Weak ridging here dries it out, knocks the winds down over the central western Aleutians. Ahead of the next system, farther to the just coming onto the chart there. It looks good to move in Saturday night and Sunday. Otherwise, high pressure here tries to dry it out and maybe produce some sunshine over the southern panhandle, but you don't have to go too far north to get into the shower activity, which will become the rain zone there from about Elephant Cove to roughly Yakutat. But this front really weak and nothing too terribly heavy at all expected with that system as it moves eastward here. And again, that's just leaving a few scattered showers in its wake along the North Gulf Coast. Maybe some clearing showing up over Prince William Sound for Saturday. Cook Inlet as well. Most the shower activity will be north of Talkeetna, going up to the southern slopes of the Alaska Range. And then temperatures, lows for tonight, lower 40s over the southern southeast coast, mid to upper 30s to the north, mid 30s North Gulf Coast areas, south central Alaska, mid 20s, coldest areas of the Copper River Basin, and 20s here for the Tanana Valley, cool into the teens there. That's around the greater Bettles area in the Koyukuk Valley. About 10 to 15, eastern Brooks Range, north slope down to around 10, and 5 to 10 for the eastern and central Beaufort Sea coast. Then lower 20s here in the northwest. Nome, a low maybe down to 19, around 20, and mid 30s here for Bristol Bay, lower 30s for the Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta area, mid 20s St. Lawrence Island, mid 30s out there in the Aleutians and Pribilofs. Highs for tomorrow, upper 30s for the Pribilofs with those colder northerly winds. Near 40 for the central Aleutians, lower 40s Alaska Peninsula, warm into the mid 40s up toward King Salmon, upper 40s Kodiak Island, near 50 Palmer, Wasilla, Talkeetna, Trapper Creek, and those areas here, south central Alaska, Madanuska-Susitna Valley, Kenai near 50 as well. Otherwise mid 40s, lower to mid there for the Copper River Basin, mid 40s here, 40s in the interior, 20s Brooks Range, near 20 to the lower 20s along the Arctic coast, 40s to near 50 for the Panhandle. And the lows for the next morning, upper 30s to mid 40s for the southeast coast, and I'll say around 10 there, maybe a little below for the Arctic coast, and 30s here through the southwest interior to near upper 20s to near 30, and then looks like lows warmer here with mid to lower 40s. Highs 45 to 50 southern Alaska, 50 to 55 Tanana Valley, as well as the upper Yukon, staying in the upper teens along the Arctic coast, and then upper 40s to lower 50s for the Panhandle.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
A lot of IFR up here, Brooks Range, or just south of the Brooks Range, all the way out to the Arctic coast. Big mass IFR here from southeast Bering Sea, Bristol Bay, right across Kodiak, up and along the Alaska Peninsula, or I mean the Alaska Range, and most of the Alaska Peninsula, and into the Gulf of Alaska, northward here into probably the Wrangell Mountains, Prince William Sound, southern Kenai Peninsula, and the northern Panhandle. Afternoon tomorrow, again, just about all the southeast coast socked in with IFR, as well as the eastern Gulf of Alaska, North Gulf Coast, Prince William Sound, up in the least of the coast range here of the North Gulf Coast, and the, of course, Portage on down the east side of the Kenai Peninsula. Patch IFR here, Cape Newenham, down to the Alaska Peninsula, and less IFR up there over the North Slope areas with VFR here, northwest and north of the Alaska Range. And then for Saturday morning, back to widespread IFR, Brooks Range on out to the Arctic coast again, also along the southwest coast here, as well as inland into the Kuskokwim Valley, Yukon, Kuskokwim Delta, again along and west of the Alaska Range, much of Bristol Bay. Narrow band out there over the Bering Sea, otherwise just a lot of marginal stuff out there. Southeast coast, nothing but IFR again. And for the afternoon, that holds right through Sunday afternoon, maybe a couple of spots opening up to marginal VFR. Marginal VFR, southern Alaska, marginal VFR, western Alaska. Looks like VFR from about the, roughly maybe Tanana, eastward there across the Tanana Valley, 40-mile country up to the Yukon Flats there, and then you get back into the IFR from the Brooks Range on out to the eastern Arctic coast, a little better to the west. And for passes, Anatuvik, IFR, definitely tomorrow, same forecast for Adigan as well, IFR flying, and for the Lake Clark and Merrill, IFR, either approach and rainy, looks pretty IFR. Probably the lowest conditions will be on eastern entrances of all three of those passes. Windy, IFR southern entrance, otherwise marginal. Isabel, again, south to north flow here, all that moisture flowing in from the south. So IFR southern approach, same thing from Antasta. Tanita, looks like IFR here, possible on the eastern entrance, otherwise marginal. And for Portage, IFR, either approach, and Chilkoot and White, IFR. Freezing levels tomorrow, 2,000 feet here, setting up over the central interior, and then here from Kodiak Island, Gulf of Alaska, northern Panhandle, and then 6,000 feet down there over Prince of Wales Island. And for the icing threats, we've got probably some considerable moderate here in this orange shaded area eastern Kenai Peninsula, Portage roughly, all the way across the North Gulf Coast and a little bit inland to the Coast Range. And along the Alaska and Aleutian Range, that southeast flow enhancing that, probably producing some considerable moderate rime icing. Another area here over the Kuskokwim Mountains, southern Kuskokwim Mountains, otherwise light to isolated moderate here in the remainder of the shaded area. And then for the jet stream, this upper low tracking northward throughout the day, strong jet out of the south, 140 knots coming up along with it there, and then back to the west. Good northerly northwest flow over the western Aleutians. And for 9,000 feet, strong flow here with that low again tracking northward. Pretty windy day here, Kodiak, at least at 9,000 feet. 50 to 60 knot winds right up into the Prince William Sound area across the Alaska Range. Much lighter up here to the north, 15 knots, dropping to 5 knots there on the Arctic coast. 30 to 45 knot winds here along the coast and across Lynn Canal and Glacier Bay, but only 10 knots down toward Dixon Entrance. And taking a look at 3,000 foot winds, again, this low center coming northward throughout the day, and the strong winds here on the eastern flank of the system there, eastern quadrant. 40 to 50 knot winds, Kodiak Island, right up into the Kenai Peninsula, Prince William Sound area, turning southeasterly. About 40 knots there, crossing the Alaska Range into the Kuskokwim Valley. Northerlies 30 knots here back over the northern Bering Sea from St. Lawrence Island. Easterlies 20, Brooks Range, lighter on the Arctic coast. And it looks like 20 knot southerlies at 3,000 feet for the Panhandle. Back to the west, 40 knots here from the Pribilofs down across eastern Aleutians, and then diminishing as you head west. Turbulence-wise, looks like pretty smooth here to start with for the Copper River Basin, the Alaska Range, at least early. Depending on how fast those winds increase there, may go turbulent by tomorrow afternoon. Anyway, it'll be smoother up to the north, and then moderate chop, maybe even possible isolated severe for small aircraft here in the orange shaded areas, Kodiak Island, Bristol Bay, Alaska Peninsula, Western Alaska Range, and out here over the Aleutians and along the southwest coast. And after the break, I'll be back with the marine forecasts.
The brightest planets. Greetings, stargazers. I'm James Albury, director of the Kika Silva Pla Planetarium in Gainesville, Florida.
And I'm Dean Regas, astronomer for the Cincinnati Observatory. We're here to help you find your way around the sky. We always like to show you the biggest and brightest astronomical events, things that you can easily see from anywhere.
And this week, we're going to show you how to identify the brightest of the bright, the 2 planets that will light up the night.
Venus is the brightest planet you can see from Earth because it is relatively large and close to us.
Jupiter, on the other hand, is just plain big. Even from over 400 million miles away, Jupiter stands out among the stars.
Planet hunting this month is a piece of cake, and there is nothing cooler than being able to show your friends and family the planets. Let's show you. Okay, we have our sky set up for any night this week at 9 p.m. facing west. The sun has just set, and as the sky darkens, you'll see one really bright star lighting up the twilight before any others.
A suspiciously bright star. This is Venus, and there's nothing quite like it in the earthly skies. It'll be there in the west every evening for several months. Let's fly in for a closer look. As we approach, we can see that this planet is about 7,500 miles in diameter, almost the same size as Earth. It's often called our sister planet for this very reason.
However, that is where the similarities end, because under a thick blanket of carbon dioxide clouds lies a battered, sweltering surface that is 900 degrees Fahrenheit.
Yikes! Help me!
Also, the air pressure under all that atmosphere would be so intense that it would squish you flat.
Oh, I don't feel so good.
And finally, when it rains on Venus,
oh no!
It rains sulfuric acid. So that would leave any visitor to Venus like James over there a melted, squished, acidy pile of goop.
I'm ready to go back to Earth, please.
Good idea. We're safe and sound back on Earth and facing southeast at around 10 p.m. this week. There's Jupiter, that really bright star-looking thing.
Planets twinkle much less than stars, so Jupiter looks like a bright, steady light. Jupiter will reach its closest point to the Earth on May 9th, when it will look the biggest and brightest.
So now we're going to cross over 400 million miles and take you in for a closer look at the giant planet and its many, many moons.
Faster than the speed of light, we're approaching Jupiter. There are most of its 69 known moons looking like little fireflies circling the planet. Imagine if we had 69 moons in our sky.
As we get closer, we start to see the planet itself and its telltale dark and light stripes, marking the lines of latitude on Jupiter. And coming around the side is the Great Red Spot.
The Great Red Spot is a humongous cyclone of gases that well up from the inside and churn the outer surface of the planet. It has been there for at least 140 years, though many other spots have popped up from time to time.
Right now, the Great Red Spot is about the size of 2 Earths, although it has been shrinking lately. If this continues, the red spot may be tough to see, turn pale in color, or disappear altogether.
But Dehne, don't get too close. You'll get sucked in.
Oh no, not again!
Well, that was fun. I got squished and melted on Venus, and you fell into Jupiter's Great Red Spot.
And we survived to tell the tale. But for you earthbound stargazers out there, you can still see our 2 brightest planets, Venus and Jupiter, in the night sky.
And it's fun and easy to do. Look for Venus just a little north of west after sunset around 9 p.m.
Then stay up a little later to watch Jupiter rise higher in the southeastern sky around 10 p.m. Since you can't visit these planets in person,
Thankfully.
let your imagination take you there as you
Keep looking up.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Welcome back. Looking at the sea ice analysis for today. Sea ice free up through the Bering Strait down to the southern Chukchi, and the light blue shades here, that's open water, which is less than 1/10 of an inch. You can see it expanding up here off the western coast there, and especially here west of Kotzebue Sound. And with prolonged northerly flow coming in, last through the first of next week, some of this may begin to close off, especially up through here, as some of that heavier ice shifts back down toward the south. Bering Sea, though, about all that's left is this patch over here north of St. Lawrence Island over to the Russian coast. And for the coastal water forecast, south winds 20-25 knots here out along the coast, southeast 25 to 30 here on the eastern North Gulf Coast. Gales for northern Lynn Canal tomorrow, increasing south 35 knots, 7-foot seas. 25 gusts 40 out of the southeast there for Stevens Passage, Clarence Strait, small craft advisories. And the outlook for first day of the weekend, southerlies lightest on the south coast down to 20 knots with 7-foot seas, otherwise small craft advisories for the remainder of the coastline for those winds right out of the south. Southeast 20 for Clarence Strait, southeast 30, gusts 45 there for Stevens Passage. Gales continue right into through Saturday for Lynn Canal. And for the Barren Islands on into Kachemak Bay, southeast 35 knots, Kamishak Bay, I'm sorry, not lighter winds forecast for Kachemak Bay. Anyway, southeasterlies 35 knots, Barrens into Kachemak Bay. Southern Cook Inlet southeast at 30, northeast 25 for the northern inlet, east 30, 7-foot seas, Prince William Sound. Southeast winds 30 knots for the North Gulf Coast. Those turn south and drop off 20-25 here for those zones with 11-foot seas on Saturday. Winds come down with seas subsiding to 3 feet there for Prince William Sound. Northern Cook Inlet, south 15. Small craft advisory south of the Forelands into Kachemak Bay, south 25 for the Barren Islands. And for Kodiak Island tomorrow, south winds 40 knots, including Shelikof Strait. Sitka to Castle Cape, southwest 45 knots. And then northwest turn westerly here across the Alaska Peninsula at about 30 knots with seas as high as 13 feet. Southwest 30 into Bristol Bay, 7-foot seas. And the next day, southwest 25 there for Bristol Bay. West winds 25 knots, 10 to 11-foot seas for the Alaska Peninsula. Those turn southwest into Sitkinak and up the east side of Kodiak Island with 12-foot seas. Tad lighter there in Chillicothe Strait, southwest 20, seas 7 feet. Out in the Aleutians, western Aleutians west to northwest 25, picking up to 30 knots for Adak and Atka, still out of the northwest. And then we've got northwesterly gales here for the Fox Islands with seas up to 17 feet. And then those come down westerly here from actually Adak all the way over to Unalaska Island at 20 knots, seas running 9 to 12 feet. And out to the west, 25 knots west of Adak and then falling back down to 20 knots, but everybody out of the west. And then for the southwest coast, north to northwesterlies tomorrow, gale force, 35 knots, 9 to 13 foot seas, and 40 knots for the Pribilofs out of the north. North 35, gales also for St. Matthew Island, and 30 knot winds for St. Lawrence Island. And the outlook for Saturday, north winds 30 here for St. Lawrence Island, small craft advisories along the southwest coast for 25 knot winds. Pribilofs coming down to 20 knots out of the northwest, northerlies to 25 for St. Matthew Island. Up over the central and eastern Beaufort Sea coast tomorrow, east 15 knots, pick it up to brisk wind, or roughly brisk wind advisories or small crafts there for the west side. And then next is actually northeast, 25 to 30 all the way down to Wales. And then for the outlook on Saturday, we've got gales out of the northeast here from Cape Thompson to Cape Beaufort, and then 30 knot winds there for the western coast, 20 for the central coast, kind of the lighter zone there, but back up to 30 knots from the east-northeast there, eastern Beaufort Sea coast. And taking a look at tonight's weather again, strong low moving northward, deepening system coming up here. Warm front wind, gale force winds here. Again, Kodiak Island, southern Cook Inlet, Kachemak Bay, and the Barren Islands. Winds will be increasing with rain, possibly moderate to heavy at times from the southern Kenai Peninsula down to Kodiak Island. And a trough with some pretty steady precipitation and gusty north winds behind it and lowering snowfall levels. So rain and snow showers covering the area from the Pribilofs down into the Aleutians. And then for tomorrow, that low lifts northward, wind and rain across all of southern Alaska. Again, wind advisories out for the Alaska Range from noon on tomorrow. Scattered showers to the Panhandle, drier in the north. And then the outlook for Saturday, this very weak front brings a narrow band of precipitation eastward, maybe to Elfin Cove, otherwise scattered showers and breezy behind the system. Let's look at the weather for today. Thank you for joining us.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.